This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Efrem Graham. It is a busy Monday following a busy weekend. We want to begin this half hour with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arriving today in Washington for talks with President Donald Trump. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, the meeting is pivotal for the outcome of Israel's war with Hamas, the future of Gaza, and the fate of the remaining hostages.
Before he left for the U.S., Netanyahu told reporters some of the issues the two leaders will discuss.
Victory over Hamas, achieving the release of all our hostages, and dealing with the Iranian terror axis and all its components, an axis that threatens the peace of Israel, the Middle East, and the entire world.
Netanyahu says he believes the two can transform the Middle East.
I believe that we can strengthen security, broaden the circle of peace, and achieve a remarkable era of peace through peace.
Trump also extended an invitation to King Abdullah of Jordan to the White House. Trump wants Jordan and Egypt to help resettle Palestinian refugees from Gaza so it can be rebuilt. So far, both countries are rejecting Trump's offer.
We have a clear vision regarding the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip without this leading to the expulsion of any citizen from his land. We have a clear vision in this regard.
On Saturday, Hamas released 3 more hostages. Israelis were delighted to see the reunions of Yarden Bibas, Ofer Calderon, and Israeli-American Keith Siegel. These men and the other released hostages described the hellish conditions Hamas kept them in for more than 15 months. Some were held in cages and without medical care. Others saw friends murdered or die slowly. Some were forbidden to cry or hold hands with other hostages. A member of the IDF Medical Corps said some were held in Hamas tunnels for up to 8 months straight, without daylight and little human contact. Yarden Bibas says Hamas taunted him about the fate of his wife Shiri and the 2 sons, Ariel and Kafir. Israel says it has grave concerns about whether they are still alive. Former hostage Daniela Gilboa posted on social media, "I knew the only thing that could save us was faith." She waited for the moment she could recite the prayer of thanksgiving in her synagogue. President Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff met with some of the released hostages.
People of the United States stand with you. The President stands with you. And we have a common goal to bring everybody home.
Some were also held in United Nations Relief and Works Agency facilities. Israel has now banned UNRWA activities in Israel. It's Israel's most extensive action against the UN agency yet. CBN News has reported for years how UNRWA's curriculum teaches generation of Palestinian children to fight for Israel's destruction. The war in Gaza also exposed the incestuous relationship between UNRWA and the terror group Hamas, where many UNRWA employees work for Hamas and shared UNRWA facilities. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
The search continues for the remains of the victims from the air disaster at Washington's Reagan Airport last week. Emergency officials are also investigating a second devastating crash in Philadelphia. That one happened Friday night. Dale Hurd is on this story.
Families of victims of the deadliest U.S. air disaster in nearly 25 years visited the crash site just outside of Washington, D.C. Sunday. They walked along the banks of the Potomac River near Reagan National Airport, close to where an American Airlines jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided on Wednesday. Authorities said Sunday they had recovered and identified 55 of the 67 people killed.
During our surveys, for instance, yesterday, they were able to identify 11 separate human remains as part of this effort, as part of their preparatory operation for dive.
The National Transportation Safety Board says some of the most trusted location data shows the crash happening at just over 300 feet, higher than the 200 feet the Black Hawk was supposed to be flying at. But the tower radar that air traffic control was looking at showed the chopper at 200 feet.
Initial data indicates that he may have seen 200 feet. That needs to be verified. Our ATC group is working it.
The NTSB's Bryce Banning also said the jet's cockpit voice recorder captured sound moments before the crash.
The crew had a verbal reaction, and FDR data showed the airplane beginning to increase its pitch. Sounds of impact were audible about 1 second later, followed by the end of the recording.
And new details about this medical jet crash in Philadelphia Friday evening. The cockpit voice recorder has been found 8 feet down inside this massive crater where the Learjet made impact. The surrounding scene littered with burned-out cars.
There is substantial impact on the entire community. The debris field extends 4 or 5 blocks.
An 11-year-old and her 31-year-old mother, along with 4 crew members, were killed. 1 person on the ground was also killed, and 22 were injured, some critically. The jet was returning to Mexico after the child was treated at Shriners Hospital. Meanwhile, as the nation continues to mourn the 67 lives lost in Washington, Michael Simpson, a friend of 2 of the victims, Bob and Lori Schrock of Kiowa, Kansas, told CBN News about their powerful influence in his life, their deep faith in Jesus, how they lived with an eternal perspective, and what Bob's message would have been.
We're here for a short amount of time, and eternity is what matters. That's what Bob would tell me. And I know that that's what he would want the world to know. It's like true peace and hope can be found in a relationship with Christ. And you are here today and can be gone tomorrow. And eternity is what matters.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
President Donald Trump signed an order to impose stiff tariffs on imports from Canada, China, and Mexico. The president, declaring an economic emergency, has placed a 10% tariff on all imports on China and 25% on imports from Mexico and Canada, except a 10% rate on Canadian oil. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responded to the tariff order.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives.
Meanwhile, Mexico's president has also ordered retaliatory tariffs, and China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it will firmly deplore and oppose this move, taking necessary countermeasures to defend its rights and its interests. President Trump's tariff order takes effect Tuesday. Coming up, facing anti-Semitism, some students visiting Israel learn how to counter hatred of Jews. Stay with us. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. Several dozen students recently visited Israel to learn how to counter hatred of Jews and the Jewish nation. Paul Strand joined them on the tour.
It's widely acknowledged that students in the Western world are facing more anti-Semitism on their campuses and in their lives than maybe ever before. Well, where better to learn how to fight it than right here in the Jewish homeland?
The Jewish students from the U.S. and Canada traveled across Israel to end up at this day-long seminar. They learned how to more effectively address anti-Israel and anti-Jewish activism. Angela Palumbo experienced it her first day at college.
It started against my beliefs and targeting how I felt about Israel, but then quickly became comments about my appearance, use that dirty Zionist money to get a nose job, save some oxygen for the rest of us.
David Lederer witnessed it at Columbia University, center of possibly the most radical anti-Jewish activism on an American campus.
Me walking to class, someone yells at me, you know, Zionists get no, and the explicit B word, you know, like, just like yelling at Jewish people. I have a friend personally who just walked into a dining hall and they said, yeah, they got an F you Jew. Like, very explicitly anti-Jewish, like, even though they'll try to say it's just about Zionists and Zionism, it's very explicitly been a very hostile environment for Jewish students on campus.
Michael Eglash helped organize the seminar and trip.
Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, right? So if you don't believe in the right for the Jewish people to have a homeland in their ancient homeland of Israel, then that's anti-Semitic, because all people should have the right to go back to their ancestral homeland and live and right, to prosper and what have you. So those people that are telling you they're anti-Zionists, they're anti-Semites.
And I have definitely experienced it.
Canadian Amanda Yakubovitz worries about a more subtle anti-Semitism, such as when a fellow student questioned just how Jewish the Holocaust was.
You know, the Holocaust, so many people died, and he was very much just, what he was saying was negating the actual Jewish connection to the Holocaust.
Jewish students are under attack on the campuses, and they're made to feel very insecure and uncomfortable.
Eglash first experienced it as a student in the 1990s.
Extreme left-wing organizations that were out there that were putting up swastikas, equating it with the Star of David, or at times they were intimidating students. So if you wear a Star of David, they would come up to you and say, how can you wear that symbol? You must support Israel.
When in Israel, these students experienced realities much different from the propaganda spouted on their campuses.
So a lot of the remarks we hear is that October 7th either never happened, or in Israel we face apartheid, colonialism, ethnic cleansing. And so walking around the streets and seeing the street signs that are in English, Arabic, and Hebrew automatically disproves that claim. Seeing the kibbutzim that were destroyed and seeing the Nova Music Festival site and all of the people taking from us early, it's hard to not acknowledge the facts when you see them firsthand.
You see it firsthand on the ground. It's nothing at all what they're talking about on campus, and it's important to see it.
Natan Sharansky has been one of the world's lead fighters against anti-Semitism. He told these students the best way to battle it is to proudly stand up for their Jewish identity and their Jewish nation.
There is no way in today's world to keep your proud identity without understanding that Israel is the heart of this identity. So obvious that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism goes together. And I have to say, as in the past, everything depends on you.
Yakubovitz is definitely on board for that.
For me, I wear it on my sleeve. Within 5 minutes of knowing me, you know that I'm Jewish, I'm Israeli, I speak Hebrew, and I'm so excited about it.
Lederer had a special message for Christians.
Jewish students have been forced out of the clubs, out of student government, out of various sectors of the university. And the only allies we have that can understand us and can talk to us are the Christian students. I just want to say thank you to my Christian neighbors. I hope you had a happy holidays.
Most of these students were already Jewish activists, but now they return to their states and provinces with more weapons to fight anti-Semitism when they get there. Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Still ahead, see how the CBN popular animated children's series Superbook is reaching a new generation of Japanese children. Stay with us. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. The original Superbook first hit Japan's airwaves back in 1981. Since its debut and success, CBN televised the updated animated Bible series, reaching a new generation of Japanese children. Asia correspondent Lucille Toulousan shows us Superbook's impact on the life of one young viewer and his single mom.
At 5 years old, Eisuke first watched Superbook at the Nozomi Christian Preschool in 2018, the year the new version aired in Japan.
I really like Superbook because I can relate with Chris. In the story of David, at first, Chris was afraid of the big crowd, but when he played his guitar for God, he won the audition. In my case, I was not good in origami, and some kids told me to just quit. But I did not give up, and God helped me. Now, I am good at it. I asked my mom to buy the DVDs for me, but she said to just watch on television because she did not have extra money.
Back then, Eisuke's mother, Dieko, struggled financially as a single parent.
When he sees other families in his school and the children go to their fathers, he asks why he doesn't have that kind of family. I apologize to him and he tells me it's not my fault. He just asks God why.
Watching the program together, mother and son are learning many life lessons.
Superbook has made it easier for us to understand the Word of God and grow in our faith. Eske told me he realized that God allowed our situation to know him more, and by watching Superbook, he learned how much God loves him.
Before watching Superbook, I know there is a God, but I am not sure if I should believe Jesus. But through Superbook, I learned that Jesus died on the cross and forgave my sins, so I can go to heaven.
God granted Eske's desire for his own DVDs. He won the Superbooks quiz contest and got the Season 1 set as his prize. His mom encouraged him to make a Superbook album, which also serves as his journal.
After I got my prize, I submitted my testimony of gratitude.
Dieko has her testimony as well.
When Eske was born, I did not have faith in God. But when we went to the Christian preschool, we came to know God. I learned about Jesus and I accepted Jesus Christ. I discovered my purpose too, and now I am a licensed teacher in the same preschool.
And because mom and son are big Superbook fans, they have completed all 5 seasons of Superbook DVDs. We visited SK in his home to take a look at his complete set of DVDs of Superbook and to also give him some surprise gifts from Superbook. Konnichiwa! Hi! Hello! I heard that you have a complete set of DVDs? Yes? Eske proudly showed us his sets of DVDs. After that, we gave him Superbook souvenirs and we saw how they really meant a lot to him. You like it? Are you happy?
Happy!
Happy! Happy! Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Kawagoe, Japan.
Coming up, see the connection of faith, football, and the farm in the new inspirational film Green and Gold. We've got a preview for you. It's coming up next. A budding banjo prodigy is making an impression on social media. 12-year-old Wisconsin native Aiden Muse got his first banjo at just 8 years old. Since then, he's gained millions of views on Instagram by screen sharing serenading his pet chickens. He says his breakthrough came when National Banjo Hall of Famer Gary Davis discovered him at a bluegrass festival, and he's been tutoring Aiden ever since.
He said, I think he has potential. I'll teach him. So that's how I got where I am today.
Aiden's dream is to become a bluegrass star, a musical gift he recently found out runs in his family. Very nice. Well, the Green Bay Packers did not make this year's Super Bowl, but they're an important piece of a new movie hitting the big screen. Green and Gold stars Emmy Award-winning actor Craig T. Nelson. He plays a farmer whose faith in God and his faith in his football team fuel a fight to save his land and legacy. Craig T. Nelson may still be best known as the star of the hit series Coach.
These kids are going to learn something about life.
And more recently, for his role on Young Sheldon.
You must be a friend of my son's.
Or the voice of the animated character, Mr. Incredible.
This is Sean.
That's fine.
He's now back on the big screen as Buck in Green and Gold. How would you describe this character? Who is he?
He's a fourth-generation farmer. He's trying to make sense of life in a situation where it looks like there's no way out. He may lose what he's held precious to him. He's trying to find a faith that means something to him that he doesn't even have.
Easy. For him, it wasn't the frozen tundra. It was the Garden of Eden.
Buck is a diehard fan of the Green Bay Packers. So much so, he wages high stakes to save his land and legacy. You could say he bets the farm, literally.
This ain't your land.
Well, when you don't pay your loan, it becomes my land.
He's wounded, and he's in a situation in life that's a crisis. And he's trying to find a way to manufacture some way to make it work.
This is the work of two first-time filmmakers, producer David Linwall and director Anders Lindwall. It's a story inspired by their real-life grandfather. So this story, I understand it's personal, so tell me how.
You know, our grandfather was a dairy farmer, and we just always had like a passion for telling stories about that area, and this is really our first opportunity to get a chance to share kind of the beauty of what we grew up around and the beauty of the people up there.
Tell me about the journey as independent filmmakers to get this film completed. I imagine it was a faith walk on many levels.
You know, as independent filmmakers, you don't have the budget to pay and hire out roles. But honestly, it's been it's been such a joy.
And for Craig T. Nelson, the character of Buck was a blessing.
Generational farms are in my family, and I could identify with that. But I think one of the main reasons was his walk, his faith walk, and that sometimes you have to get to that point of brokenness and despair before you realize you need, and when you realize that you're powerless, and you're brought to that point, and that's when you're perhaps more teachable than others.
Green and Gold is quite an inspirational film. You can catch it right now. It is in theaters nationwide. Well, it is time now for your Monday Motivation. I'm going to leave you with this thought as we begin yet another week together. All change begins with a decision. The right decision brings deliverance. The wrong decision could ultimately bring death. The choice is yours, and I want you to choose wisely. Choose life. The choice can begin today. With that word, I encourage you to make this a marvelous Monday, and be sure to have yourself a wonderful rest of the week. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for watching. Want to remind you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online. That address is cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can do that by emailing us. The address is newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. We look forward to seeing you right back here, same time tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, God bless, and we will see you again tomorrow.